What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA playoffs. Saturday, June 26th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have an NBA showdown between the Phoenix Suns and the LA Clippers. So let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Chris Paul from the Phoenix Suns, and Chris Paul has averaged 37.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 42 fantasy points last game in 38 minutes. He's projected at 42.1 fantasy points here tonight. Vegas thinks there's going to be 218.5 points scored in this game. So I like Chris Paul here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, another point guard that I like. This guy's been super consistent, playing a bunch of minutes, scoring almost the same fantasy points every single game. So I like Reggie Jackson from the LA Clippers. And Reggie Jackson has scored 34, 37, 35, 54, and 33 fantasy points in the last 5 games. And I think you can even go back further and you see he's scoring between 32 to 37 fantasy points almost every single game. He played 32, 38, and 39 fantasy points, and he played 32, 38, and 39 minutes in the last 3 games. And his usage rate has been consistent, 28%, 23%, 28%. So I think he makes an awesome cash game play and a great tournament play. He's projected at 34 fantasy points here tonight. One of my favorite players on the slate. Hopefully I didn't curse or jinx him. So I like Reggie Jackson here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, now if you're looking for a low salary point guard who's playing a bunch of minutes and he's got some upside, take a look at Patrick Beverly from the LA Clippers. He averaged 18.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 22 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He scored 23, 15, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 26, 26, and 14 minutes. So what I'm looking at here is that he played 26 minutes in the last 2 games. So if that continues here tonight, he does have that 20 plus fantasy point upside. He's projected at 20 fantasy points here tonight. But this is a guy that's going to allow you to make your lineup a little bit different. If you want to save some salary so you can fit some of the other players in, if he gets 26 minutes, I think he can score 20 fantasy points or more. So I like Patrick Beverly as a tournament play here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Paul George from the LA Clippers. He averaged 40.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. But he scored 54, 39, and 54 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 42, 41, and 38 minutes. So with Kawhi Leonard out, he's playing monster minutes, and his usage rate has jumped up quite a bit. 38%, 36%, and 36% in the last 3 games. He's projected at 52 fantasy points here tonight. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. He makes a lot of sense to play at captain, so I like Paul George here versus the Phoenix Suns. Another shooting guard that I like is Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns, who's averaged 37.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 28, 25, and 70 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 40, 40, and 43 minutes. So Chris Paul came back. That took a little bit of the shine off of a guy like Devin Booker, but he's still playing a ton of minutes and he still has monster upside. He's projected at 41 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Devin Booker here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, now if you're looking to save some salary here, take a look at Terrence Mann from the LA Clippers. He scored 24, 14, and 18 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 19, and 27 minutes. So he's out there, he's playing minutes, he's got some potential, he's got that 20 plus fantasy point upside. He's projected at 22 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Terrence Mann as a tournament play here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Mikal Bridges from the Phoenix Suns, and he averaged 26.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He scored 23, 12, and 27 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 26, 34, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 26.3 fantasy points here tonight. He seems to be one of those hit or miss players. He can make or break a lineup, but he is capable of 30 plus fantasy point upside, so if he goes off, he's probably going to be low owned. So I like Mikal Bridges here versus the LA Clippers. And another small forward that I like, if you're looking to save some salary here, take a look at Cameron Johnson, who scored 19, 18, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 30, 24, and 24 minutes. He's projected at 20 fantasy points here tonight. His salary's low, and he's averaging 17.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game. So if he's going to play 24 to 30 minutes, he's got that 20 plus fantasy point upside. His salary's low, and his ownership is probably going to be low. So I like Cameron Johnson as a tournament play here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Jay Crowder from the Phoenix Suns. Jay Crowder has averaged 21.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. He scored 15, 14, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 28, 32, and 33 minutes. Now, he hasn't really played well lately, but he is playing a bunch of minutes, averaging right around 30 minutes a game, and he does have 30 plus fantasy point upside if he can get going. His salary is still pretty low. He's projected at 24 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Jay Crowder here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Deandre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns. He averaged 33.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. He scored 38, 47, and 33 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 34, and 36 minutes. He's been pretty consistent lately, scoring 30 fantasy points or more in 4 of his last 5 games. He's projected at 38.5 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Deandre Ayton here versus the LA Clippers. And another center that I like is Ivica Zubac, who scored 45, 29, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 34, and 18 minutes. So I'm looking at the last 2 games here where he played 32 and 34 minutes and scored 45 and 29 fantasy points. If he's going to play over 30 minutes, I think he's in a really good spot here. His salary is still pretty low, and he's projected at 31 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Ivica Zubac here versus the Phoenix Suns.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.